So I'll just move some windows away. So we'll just get going. Okay, well, welcome. So tonight we're going to see about climbing various trekking peaks in the Everest region. I know some of the people here have been with me before, so hello and welcome back. I'm sure there's some pictures I can see Susan and various other people there. So I just warn you, I'm having a few techie troubles, but we'll get there. So those who don't know me, I'll just introduce myself. My name's Aid Summers. I'm an expedition organizer and a leader. These days, I tend to specialize in more remote areas of Nepal and the Himalayas, Mongolia, Pakistan, Afghanistan. Central Asia is probably one of my interesting places. Hang on, there we go. There you go. So this presentation is going to cover various climbs of Mira Peak and Island Peak, L'Auberge, a peak fairly rarely climbed called Narika, which is near L'Auberge East, and Pachamo Peak, which is near the Teshilapsa Pass. So the photos you're going to see today are a combination of many, many trips. About 20 times I've been to the Khumbu region. So they're not all the one trip, but they're going to be based around one trip I did in 2013, where we climbed Mira, Amphulapsa, the L'Auberge Island Peak, and then we did a 38-day trip around to come out through the Rawalin Valley. Yeah, there we go. So it's quite a hell of a trip, really. So the photos are based on that trip, but brought in other photos from other areas. So for those of you who are not too familiar, we're looking at Nepal here, and the Everest region is down here, sort of to the sort of east of the country on the Tibetan border. So this is the trip I'm going to base this talk on. So basically, we start off in Lukla as always, then cross the Zachular, climb Mira Peak, follow the Aran Valley around, cross the Amphulapsa, climb Island Peak, have a wander through Chukum. There's another little ridge you can climb called Chukumri, which is quite nice. We'll have a look around there. We'll come over the Komalar and have a bit of a scramble up Pakaldi Peak, come down over to L'Auberge, have a climb at L'Auberge East, cross the Chola, come around over to Gokyo, over the Renjola, down to Tame, and out through the Rawalin by the Teshilapsa and L'Auberge, Pachamo Peak. There we go. So first of all, we'll start off with, this is a little bit of video from YouTube, which from Google Earth, which is quite good on Mira Peak. So I've been playing around with a lot of Google Earth recently, and you can do some great videos with it. Oh, what's happening there? Oh yeah, so Mira Peak. So like any trip in the Khumbu, sorry, there we go. Any trip in the Khumbu starts with a flight to Lukla. So you can see it's quite a crazy runway. Everybody's got an infamous sort of reputation. So I just thought I'd throw in a bit of video just to sort of relive the experience for some.
Many people on it.
Best part 20.
Right.
There we go. So various companies go different ways in, but one of my favorite ways is to cross the Zachular. It's a bit of a short stab sort of peak pass to cross over, and it's quite a bit of a baptism of fire to the trip. But it really is a great way to acclimatize quickly and get some great views. So it starts off to a place called Chutanga, and then you scramble up. You can see the route up here, and the Zachular is just based on this part of the ridgeline. So this is a good friend of mine, Passan. He was the Surda on this trip. And so there's the little village where you sort of start off from, climb over the Zachular, cross the Zachuog, and then down into the Aran Valley, or the Hongu Valley, sorry. So this is where you start getting your first views of Mira. So this is looking at the south face of Mira, and you can easily see the three peaks of Mira. So most people climb the middle peak, the central summit. The sort of eastern summit apparently is the slightly higher, but it's quite a difficult traverse. So most people settle for the central summit. There we go. After trekking a day or two, you end up in Gote, which is village. This is the edge of sort of general Nepal and the Aran Makalu National Park. Sorry, techie trouble. There we go. So you end up having a few rest days here. It's quite an interesting place to hang out. You've got these solar panels, great way of boiling water, and just starting to trek into the sort of base camp and the high camp region. These are our porters. Obviously, without them, we could never really succeed, and without our Sherpas as well. And we end up in a place called Tagnag, where you sort of start getting the gear out, doing some training, having a bit of a high climatization walk. And this is where we have another rest day. And you can see the routes. This is in Tagnag. It's a big spill, the glacier, and there's a big glacial lake here, which breached. You can see the big hole in the moraine dam. So we sort of travel up through here and then up into the side valley to get to Mira Peak Base Camp. This is the lake that breached a number of years ago. I think it was in '92. A serac broke off, created a wave, breached the dam wall, and pretty much redefined the valley. This is just coming in. This is just a nice view of the moon rising over the Mira La. This is taken from Mira High Camp, and the route to travel up onto the Mira La is along this neck of the glacier, and along this part at the end of this rock wall, you drop down to the Mira La camp. So I'll just say I haven't climbed Mira for about 5 years yet, so it's sort of useful to just bear that in mind. I'm sure the geography's changed quite a lot. So this is one of the groups up on the Mira La. We're roped up for safety. As you can see, it's heavily crevassed, but beautiful sunny day, of course, and great views of the surrounding area. And then this is our camp on the Mira La. So it's you're not here that long, but it's quite a wild, rugged camp. But it's nice to sort of, have a base before you head off. And then you get back onto the Mira La, and we're heading up to the high camp, which is this wild, rugged place just on this rocky outcrop. So this is quite flat. It starts to get quite a bit steeper, and then we've got to navigate a couple of crevasses before putting in a high camp up here. So this is quite a nice photo, because you can see the actual summit. So high camp just on our left, my right here. And high camp on Mira is quite a wild place. You're not there too long, but it's not the most comfortable of campsites, but the views are spectacular. See 8,000 meter peaks. Here's a view of Kanchenjunga in the distance. And this is a bit of video from the high camp to show the views. But I was having trouble with the video earlier on. Sorry, it's played up again. There we go. Let's see if this one's working. No. Sorry about that. We're just having some techie trouble. Oops. So this is just setting out from the high camp. You see we're all roped up. But the spectacular views, you've got Everest. Makalu is over here. Everest is, it's just off over there. So it really is a spectacular place where you get to see some amazing mountain views and big peaks. So this is the summit of Mira, the central summit. There's another smaller bump, which some people we use as a summit, depending on the conditions and how we're doing. But this is one of the sort of the central nipple that everybody seems to climb. And this is the saddle where we sort of set off from. There's the higher point is slightly to your right. You can claim that as a summit as well. And I've climbed this various places, but the whole peak is generally peeling off. There used to be a ladder which stuck out, and you cross this crevasse with the ladder, and then the ladder was just sitting in midair. So these days, I believe you come around the right. Oops. There we go. So we generally put a fixed rope onto that summit because it could be a little bit dangerous, and then we clip in and chug up. So I think there's some people might be recognize themselves here. So this is our summit. I can't remember what year it was now, maybe 2013, I don't know. But spectacular views in the background. This is another view. Oh, there you go. There's some familiar people there. It's an amazing place. It's a very achievable summit. It's very beautiful. You've got to do a little bit of work to get there, like anywhere that's interesting, but well worth the effort. And then, of course, you've got to drop back down. So this is a view just coming back off the summit, and we're ending up down here, so this area, in order to get back to high camp for some noodles. On this trip, we're going to cross down into the upper Hongu Valley and cross the Yamfu Lapsa. So rather than going back down to the base camp and then out the same way we came in, we're going to drop off to the right and end up in the Hongu Valley. Oops. So we're in the. So back to the Miralar camp, just for some noodles and a bit of a rest, and then we head off down to a low camp into the Hongu Valley. So just to sort of recap, we came up from Tagnag to a Mira Peak base camp, up to the Miralar camp, high camp, summit, back down again. So instead of retracing our steps, we're going to drop into the Hongu Valley. And we're going to cross the Yamfu Lapsa. This is one of my favorite photos, actually. It's just a great people and a great view. So from the Hongu Valley, we're going to travel up to a place called Panchpokari, which means 5 holy lakes, cross the Yamfu Lapsa, which basically goes from the Mira region, the Barron National Park region, into the Everest region. And there you go. So this is our trek in. Oh, okay. And the Yamfu Lapsa is in this area here. So we're just wandering along. This is one of the holy lakes, and we're going to put a camp in this sort of region there. So it's all rubble and bouldery and sort of not difficult trekking, but can be a bit difficult underfoot. And this is us climbing the Yamfu Lapsa. So it's a sort of mountaineering pass. You can see it's quite wild and rugged. There's these reefs of glacials, a hanging glacier, really, a bit of an ice fall. And so once you climb a short step, it's a quite easy section along, and then you've got to climb another step, and you just zigzag your way up to the pass. But the views are spectacular, and it's just a beautiful area, great views of Amador Blam. This is one of my groups. You can see these steps of the glacier, and you can see the various lines, which is layers of snow and ice, and the dark lines are probably soot and dirt. So it's quite a challenging climb, but good fun. And I think there's a bit of video to sort of show what we're doing. Oh, sorry, that one's some trouble as well. There you go. So once this photo was taken just off before the pass is quite narrow and a little precarious, so we didn't want to sort of put ourselves in danger when we were taking the photos. So that's quite interesting. And there's another group on the pass. So you can see there's Burunsi in the background. On the other side is Amador Blam. So it's just a spectacular place to be in the mountains. And of course, once you climb the pass, you've got to come down the other side. And in this case, it's a bit of a 50-meter abseil. So it's not too bad, but generally we lower the gear for the boys because it's easier for them. So we're here at this point now, we're crossing the Yamfu. We're just going to walk down, come all the way around Imgur Lake, and then get to Island Peak Base Camp. And another bit of Google Earth video to show you what it's all about. So there's Panchpokari, there, the 5 holy lakes, the Yamfu, and then we're going to come around the Imgur Lake to Island Peak Base Camp. So now we're going to sort of have a plot up Island Peak. So this photo was taken before the earthquake in 2015. Oops, I think I hit the button again. And so it's a slightly different route these days. The route that I'm going to take you on today is pretty much across this glacier, across this big Bergstrom, up the head wall, and then along the ridge line to the summit. I believe these days it carries along further up the glacier and just makes a direct approach to the summit. There we go. So walking around the lake is spectacular. It's great, easy walking. And if the weather's good, it's a really pleasant walk, a few little rivers to cross and that sort of thing. And that puts us up to Island Peak Base Camp, which is pretty much in this region here on the lateral moraine of the glacier. So the route you climb generally early. Some people put a high camp in up here. I've done it couple of times different ways. The high camp's really good if you can put it in. It just makes the summit day a bit easier. But excuse me, there's not always water to use. So going up from base camp is an option then, and then it just makes the day a bit longer. So you basically struggle all the way up to here, along onto the glacier, traverse along and up to the summit. That makes it sound quite easy, doesn't it, really? This is we sort of climbed up to the glacier, and we just roped up and starting to find our way to the summit. On the way, early morning shot, of course, Ama de Blanc sticking out, just coming into sunrise, and beautiful views along the way. On this particular trip, some of the crevasses were unbridged, so we had to ladder them and cross on the ladders, which added a little extra dimension to the trip. And then you can see the route. You can see basically where everybody's going is along the glacier. Crossing the Bergstrom can be a little bit challenging, and the head wall is quite a steep, icy climb, but then you get rewarded by great views on the ridge. So it's quite a well-trod path these days. So you can see it's quite a route has been set in. We've got fixed ropes to help us and keep us safe. And then eventually we pop up onto the top of the ridge line. Good chance to have a sit down and a breather before we attempt the summit. And then it's a nice, it looks a lot more dangerous than it is. It's quite a nice wide path, and it's quite a beautiful, spectacular sort of climb up to the summit. So that's one of the classic routes of the old route, just coming up the ridge line right up to the top. Again, the Sherpas have fixed the route for us, so we're very safe. And it's just a great experience to top out onto a 6,000 meter peak. There's just a couple of people who I know, we did it, this was about 2013, I think. So again, I think that's various peaks. I'm trying to remember, that's Nupsy in the background. That's the Nupsy Ridge. So you can't really see Everest that well. So we sort of plodded along up to Island Peak. We're going to pump back down and come into the Khumbu Valley, and we end up in Chukung. You can have a bit of a long day if you summit. You'd leave early in the morning on an alpine start, summit as early as you can, and come back down and then have beers and dinner in Chukung village, which is, for some people, just do Island Peak as the kicking off point for Island Peak there. So Island Peak is this big lump of rock here. There we go. So another nice little side trip you can do is from Chukung village is to have a day trip up to Chukung Ri. And it's well worth the effort. It's got a great views. It's quite a straightforward walk. It's nothing difficult. And for some reason, there's all these cairns sitting on the ridge. It's a ridge, so it's a ridge line, really. It's not really a peak, but the views are spectacular, especially looking back down. That's Ama, looking at a strange sort of view onto Ama de Blanc, that is. So then you come back down to Chukung, and then some people can come down to Dimboshe and up around, but another route is over the Komala Pass. And one of the trips I did, we crossed over the Komala and climbed Pakaldi. So Pakaldi is just a rocky high point, really, but it's a nice little scramble and well worth the effort. So this is the view on the Komala, which is the pass which links the Chukung Valley across to get to L'Auberge. And then we put a high camp in just down in this area, and then early in the morning came up, fixed a few ropes just to keep people safe, and climbed the rocky peak of Pakaldi. So I say it's a nice rocky outcrop and a good scramble and a good day out. And another way of getting some skills, we just abseiled off the front, and that just gives us an extra bit of training, an extra bit of fun. So from Pakaldi, you can drop down into the Everest region up to L'Auberge, and then of course from L'Auberge it's just a plod up to Everest. And you've got to go to visit Everest, obviously. Then you can see it's a bit more busier. We have yaks on the trail, and then we just follow the glacier. So you can just see Everest is popping in over on the right there. And of course, you've got to visit Everest Base Camp. So just a few photos of Everest Base Camp, because you got to really. So there we go. This is just one of the group with Everest there, and Lopsy just coming in. Oh, the picture of the Big E. Now, so from L'Auberge village is the kicking off point for L'Auberge East Peak. So we'll just carry on around on our epic journey. So just to recap, this is L'Auberger village. We're going to come up over to a base camp and then climb L'Auberger East Peak. Oh, bit of video as well. There we go. Let's see how this runs. So this is quite a good view. So we're going to L'Auberger. When we finish climbing, to come back down, go to Dongla and cross over to the Chola. There we go. So this is just coming out of L'Auberger village. A few little rivers to cross just to get our base camp in at L'Auberger East. It's quite a rocky, wild place, L'Auberger East base camp. This is probably about 8 years ago, so it's probably changed a lot. Oh, excuse me. I think there we go. So the route from the base camp is up through these rocky slabs along this section of rock to the crampon point, and then it's pretty much just straight up to the summit. On this photo, you can see we're just at crampon point and we're just starting to do the climb up from there. That's there. So this is crampon point. You can see previous trips have put in a good trail for us. So it's a fairly straightforward climb. A little bit interesting in places once you get to the main slope. And then within about 40 degrees, ice and snow. Sherpas have done a great job again putting in the fixed lines. And you can see it's pretty steep, but pretty manageable. So this is us on the summit. The actual true summit is here, but this traverse is exceptionally difficult. And so most people put this summit as the true summit. It's only about 10 meters difference. So it's good for us to stop at that point. Everybody looks sort of happy, a little bit tired, but not too bad. And you're rewarded with spectacular views. You know, there's Everest, the whole Khumbu region is below you. Obviously, you've got to have a good day for it. And that's just a proof that I was on there. There's a picture of me, a very young me, actually. You got a few more grey hairs in my beard these days. And a bit of video that just shows you what it's all about. There we go. So as soon as you summit, get some nice photos, and then it's back on the fixed line and sort of a controlled descent back down to our high camp. And then, so you can see this is just coming off the ice, and there's the high camp is sitting around there. The boys have cleaned up and taken all the gear down, and they've gone round to Dugla, and we just catch them up. I got quite an embarrassing story on one trip. I'd just come off the snow. I was literally 10 feet away from the group, and I just forgot myself and caught my front point in my gaiter and just went ass over tit. So all the boys were laughing. You know, it was a bit embarrassing, but that's life. You know, never lose your concentration when you got crampons on. So you got to have the cake to congratulate you. That's a bit of tradition. So here we are, just come off L'Auberger. There's L'Auberger High Camp. We come around to Dugla. I'm going to cross the Chola and get into Gokyo. This is just a bit more of a detailed. So from the Chola, we can come around, cross the glacier and into Gokyo. So the glacier crossing is fairly straightforward. It's a good path. A lot of people cross it these days. So the route is well defined. And then up on the Chola has been receding as it's a glaciated pass, but it's become less icy and more rocky as the world goes by. So you can see the route. This is the Chola Pass, and this is the route down. It's quite rocky these days. When I first, about 20 years ago, climbed it, the snow was down to here, and now it's retreated all the way back here, which is a little worrying. And you can see the trail that comes through, and we're on our way to Gokyo. there's a bit of video that hopefully works crossing the pass, just crossing the glacier rather. So it's quite good fun crossing glaciers. There we go. So you can see this is the glacier we've just crossed, and then we end up in Gokyo village or Gokyo town, whatever you want to call it, which is this collection of tea houses, and they're there just for the trekkers really. The other route up into Gokyo is from Mochamo and Dole, and then you come up this valley. This photo is taken from Gokyo-ri, which is a high point, a bit like Kalapatar, but just in the Gokyo Valley, and you go there for the spectacular views of Everest. It's a beautiful lake, beautiful sort of alpine lake fed by the glaciers. From this point, you can climb Gokyo-ri, but what we're going to do is come along the valley and cross another pass called the Renjola. So the Renjola is up in, where is it now? This area here. And so we're just following the lake around. And, oh no, sorry, tell a lie, we're going up to Gokyo-ri, which is this trail up here. And it's quite a nice plot and rewarded with spectacular views, obviously Everest. A lot of people climb these peaks early in the morning, but I prefer to go in the evening so you can get the sunset on Everest. It's just a little bit more tricky coming down in the dark, but as long as you've got a good head torch and a good head for heights, you're fine. Crossing the lake is quite interesting. There's these stepping stones to come around, and then we're on our way to the Renjola Pass. There we go. So we're coming around the lake. The Renjola is up in this area, and I think it's one of the best viewpoints in the Khumbu region of Everest. You get these big spectacular sort of vistas of Everest. A little bit of video of coming up to the Renjo. Prayer flags, of course, ubiquitous in the Khumbu. There we go. So the Renjola Pass is just up here and there, sorry, just there, and you just drop down. This is part of the Upper Tame Valley. And oops, I crossed the Renjo many years ago, probably about 18 years ago, and it was quite a tricky, difficult scramble. But the people of Tame village are quite proactive, and what they decided to do was put a staircase in order to ease trekkers crossing the pass, in order for more people to go to Tame or cross the other way. So that means they get more business, which I thought was quite clever of them, really. So now we're crossing, where are we? The Renjola, and we're going to drop down into the Tame, which is a really beautiful little village near Namche Bazaar. Oops, next. There we go. So you can see a bit more civilization, big stupas and prayer flags and gompas around the place. And that leads us from Tame. We can cross into go to the Teshilapsa to climb Puchamo and go into the Rawalin Valley. So just to recap, we sort of come all the way down off the Renjola into Tame, excuse me, and then we're going to go over to the Teshilapsa and Puchamo. On the way is so much less developed than the sort of main Khumbu region. Still have these great bridges, but a lot more traders coming through, and a bit more wider open valleys. So this is just outside Tame village, and then you can see the trail along here, and the Teshilapsa is just up this side valley to our right. So if you're ever in that region, I recommend you travel around here. It's so very different and just as spectacular. There you go, so a little bit of Google Earth video. So it's quite a challenging pass. It's a lot of snow of ice. It's dried out a lot recently. Let's see, there we go. So it's another mountaineering pass. It's very similar to the Ampulapsa, but this time I'm going to try and climb Puchamo Peak. So I've got to admit, I've tried to climb Puchamo 3 times and failed every time. So it's a little bit of a monkey on my back. I'm not sure I'm ever going to achieve it, but maybe one day if I get some money and a bit of time, I'll have a crack at it. But Yeah, three attempts and 3 failures. So there's photos of the peak, but none on the summit. So what's interesting in this photograph is I first went there, and let's go back in 2002, and you can see this is the route up to the pass. So it's got a lot of snow and ice. It's a lot more glaciated. And then the last time I was there is in 2012, and noticeably more drier, less snow, less ice. The glaciers retreated. So I think you call that climate change, or is it just a natural cycle? So the route is up through this area here and up onto the glacier. So it's a bit of a scramble. It's not for the scared, but that just puts you onto the Tessilapsa Pass, and that gives you a good kickoff point for the climbing Pachamo. After that, we're going to drop down into this little hanging valley glacier and then into the Rowalin Valley. So I think it's a bit of video just to show you the area, and yeah, just as spectacular as anywhere else, really. I think this video is from 2004, so you can see this. There you go. There's the Sherpas and some of the guys ahead of us. So once you get on the glacier, you camp just off the glacier on this bit of rocky cave section. So it's quite dramatic. I've got a photo of that in a minute. But you can see it's quite rubbly. It's just classic sort of moraine, really. Bit of a slog to get up. The last section's really steep. But that puts you on your campsite on the Tessilapsa. This is a bit of an overhanging cliff, and we just flattened off some places to put our tents. Fortunately, we had a lot of snow that night, which is one of the reasons why we couldn't sort of climb the peak in the morning. We had a crack at it, but it was just too deep. The other time I tried to climb it, we couldn't cross this Serac, this Bergstrom section at the top here. But this is Pachamo Peak. So it's quite a spectacular 6,000 meter peak. This is the boys. This is the porters are gonna drop down this side, and we're gonna try and climb up here. And this is the crevasse section we just couldn't cross. But yeah, this is us trying to. I think we set off. We got to about this point and then decided it wasn't really going to happen. And we still had a long day to drop back down and get into the Rowalin. This is an earlier photo where there's a lot more snow. So Pachamo Peak is a bit of an elusive peak for me, but that's life. So now we're sort of on the pass after trying the peak, and we're going to drop back down off the Tessilapsa, which is quite a steep and glaciated pass on the other side. So this is looking up back at the Tessilapsa. So you can see our route down. So the pass is up this way. There you go. This is a better photo to see. So Pachamo Peak's on our right. The pass is just there in the center. And then we just drop back down. This is the hanging glacier we got to traverse around, and then into the Rowalin Valley. So we're sort of at this point at the time. We've got to come back down, trek along this traverse of the this hanging glacier. It's quite a tricky scramble down, and we put a base camp in just on this section, this top of the glacier. Ah, there we go. Another bit of Google Earth video. So when you get on the glacier, it's classic moraine bashing, really. So you're trying to avoid these big pressure ridges and all the crevasses, but it's quite spectacular. You can see these pressure ridges that you just negotiate around. There's no real trail along the way. Some previous people have put stone cairns up so we can sort of view get in the right direction. But we're obviously trying to avoid the big pools and the big crevasses. And then we're just going to head. This is looking up, this hanging valley, and we're just going to take a swing to the left and cross into the Rowalin. This is the Ropole Lake, So a number of people are worried about this lake, that it's building up with water. So they tapped it off and put a bit of a hydro stream for the people in the Rowallan Valley. So there we go. So eventually Nar is the first village you get to. So we've just come from the bottom of the picture here, and we're just following the side of the lake and across down into the Rowallan Valley. So Nar is the first sort of settlement, the first village you see for a number of days. And then you can get, good food and beer, and a great place to sort of call, you've reached civilization. This is the Ropol Lake. It's very wild, fed by all the glaciers, and they said they're really concerned that it might reach its dam and flood a lot of the lower valleys. Our porters do a great job of sort of carrying all our gear. Without them, we're stuffed. And then the valley opens up, and you can know you're starting to hit civilization, because you sort of see yaks, and there's small villages and settlements. So we're just dropping back down. Porter's doing a fantastic job. And then into Nar village. So this is like the beginning or the end of civilization, depending which way up the valley you're going. So from Nar, we just basically head off down. Bedin is the main village of the settlement, and then you're in Simagowan, and then this is now the main route. There's a big hydro scheme being built, and so there's a good road, and you just get the bus out. Some crazy side river crossings, so you have these little crazy bridges to cross the river, and hopefully the video's working. So now you can tell we've been in forested areas, we're back in civilization, so everybody's happy and looking forward to their beer. So this is me with 38 days growth of beard, and looking forward to a shower, really. Of course, you've got to have your cake. Congratulations. So that trip that this photo was taken from was a 38-day trip trying to climb all the 6,000 meter peaks in the Khumbu. It was pretty wild. Well, I want to tell you a completely different trip, and this was just a French trip, which was climbing quite a relatively unclimbed peak called Norika. And it was just a bunch of friends, and we thought it would be good to just have a mate's trip, and we were looking for something different, but the Khumbu region is a great place to visit, so we went into the Norika. So Norika Peak is another high point off the ridgeline of Lobogé. So you have Lobogé East, Lobogé West, and then Norika. And we had a great time. So this is a bit of a graphic to show you, you obviously got Everest, but Lobogé East is here, the ridgeline comes along, and Norika is another high point on that whole massif. So again, you start off into Lukla, up to Namche, and then back onto Tami, and we went up. Instead of coming down the Tami Valley, we went up it. This is the staircase I was telling you about to get to the Renjola. And again, you get these spectacular views of Everest coming over the Renjola. This is literally just the last couple of steps, and you peer over, and there's Everest, boom, hits you in the face. It's such a spectacular viewpoint. I really do think it's one of the best viewpoints in the Everest region, because you're higher, you're a little bit further away, so Everest just smacks you in the face. So some of the views are so big that you got to do it on a panoramic. So this is, again, the view from the Renjola. You've got Gokyo Lake there. There's the glacier we crossed on the previous trip. And then there's Everest. So where Norika is so we crossed the Chola. We crossed the Renjola, and rather than crossing the Chola as we did before, we just carry on up that valley before the Chola, and then there's Norika Peak. So we put a base camp in just at the top end of that valley before putting in a high camp on the way up. This is Joe, my friend, who was on the trip. So this is just outside our base camp, and we're just starting to get views of Norika and planning our route. So from that base camp, this is the snout of the hanging valley that we're going to go up. and our route is up onto the left and come around the corner there. This is probably one of my most enjoyable trips in the Khumbu, because it was relatively unknown. We never really had much of an idea of the route we were working out as we go along. So it was a lot more exploratory, a lot more fun. So our route here is going to be up around here. This is part of the summit of Narika. It's just a bit further along. It flattens off quite a bit at the top. And we put about 600 meters of fixed rope in. So again, we had 2 climbing Sherpas with us who did a fantastic job. And this is Pema. He was a climbing Sherpa. So you can see we've come behind his head and then up this side, and we followed the route up. So this is just coming off the snow. It was quite an icy, very sort of hard blue ice summit. So once we got off the snow ramp, all this was hard blue ice in a number of steps. So we're just starting to get to the fixed ropes, and we're going to chug our way up. So this is one of Joe's photos she sent me. So there's me just peering over one of the steps. That is me down there, honest. But again, spectacular views. The whole Khumbu opens up for you. So we set off quite early. So this is an early morning photo. And then onto the fixed rope. So we're heading up in this higher direction. The peak is just on the other side of here. But it was quite a long day. I think it was about a 12-hour summit day in the end. So you got these icy steps, which we had to negotiate. So that was a bit of a challenge at times. And then we're just working our way up top. So the summit is pretty much there. It flattens off. It's a little bit further along, but it's in that direction. And then every now and then you've got to stop and have a breather, but the views are just stunning. There we go. So this is the summit here. We stopped here to take some photos because this summit point was looking a little precarious, and just to have a breather, of course. Boom. So there's Pema putting some prayer flags on the summit. And there's Joe and was it Dave? And of course, there's me with the Welsh flag facing the right way. So that's the summit. The actual summit is just over my shoulder there, but because it was corniced, we thought it'd be best just to hang out here where we're feet away. So that was a pretty spectacular day. Weather was spectacular. We had really good weather that trip. And then we just abseiled off back down to the Cholar. So what we were hoping to do was, once we climbed Narika, was to cross down and try and find another way into the Gokyo, to Gorik Shep. And there's a pass here. This is the summit. We're going to come back to a camp and then come down this valley, cross the Shangri-La, and then this route leads to Gorik Shep. But we weren't sure where we were going. The team really wasn't really up for a lot of that extra work, and we're all knackered anyway. So we decided to carry on down, go over the Cholar, and then trek out and have a good sort of walk out of the through the Everest region. So this is the route. This was our route up to the Narika Peak, and our plan was to come back, drop into this valley, and cross the Shangri-La, and then down here. Gorik Shep is just over here. But all things considered, I think we made the right decision not to bother with that. And then there's me, back at base camp, enjoying Spam eggs and chips, just to, finish things off fantastically. I don't think I've been so happy. There we go. So that's pretty much me finished with my talk on climbing in the Everest region. We covered quite a bit. One thing I just want to have a quick discussion with is that I support a school in Pakistan. Pakistan is another of my favorite locations. And so I thought I'd just give you a bit of information on this school I support. And if anybody's interested in helping out, then you can contact me and I can put you in touch with them. Like everybody these days, with COVID and no tourism, they're really struggling to get some financial support, looking for any help they can. So Pakistan's a great country. It's one of my favorites. The area we're looking at is right on the Afghan border. It's a very remote area. And this is the foundation, the Ayub Mahant Foundation. So they basically have a school in the community, very well trying to educate boys and girls. And they have this great quote in the area: children belong in schools, not in prisons. A child employed is a future destroyed. So it really sums up their philosophy of trying to get the kids educated to improve their sort of health and the education in life. So it's in an area called Ishkaman, which is in the Giza district of Pakistan. So at the moment, that part of the education is being done in tents because they haven't got no education, no buildings. They just started to build some extra rooms, so they're hoping for some support on that. So you can see the boys and the girls are working together. So this area there is mainly Muslims, so they're not the hard radical people you might think from Saudi. Oops. So this is their school that they've sort of built or in the process of building. Pretty basic, wild mountain places. It's a beautiful area, but very poor and very under sort of funded. So they got the windows in, they just haven't got the walls to go around them. So you can see sun-dried bricks being made, and that's the thing. So these are my friends. This is the foundation, and at the moment they're trying to look for some sponsors or help to give them any support. So they've been doing some COVID relief to various areas, giving socially distant food packages to people. So you can see everybody's well spaced out. So they're, if you feel you could help out, here's their website and their Facebook page. Or if you want any more information, feel free to contact me. Well, that's it. That's me done. I can have a beer. If you've got any questions, I'll unmute everybody and we can have a chat. Anyway, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. And maybe I'll see you soon in the mountains. There we go. Let me think. How do I?
Evening, Aid.
Hiya. How are you doing?
Fantastic. That was amazing. Really, really good. Lovely to go back to the Khumbu, particularly Amphilapsa, Mira Peak, and Island Peak.
Sure, you saw yourself there.
Yeah, exactly. A few little nice ones there. It was amazing. I so wish that we could go back. A question. I've got two young boys, aged 8 and now 10.
Wow.
What sort of age do you think that it starts to be sensible to take them up into the high mountains? We do a lot of walking, climbing, running, mountain biking. They're fit, capable people.
Yeah.
But what age, in your experience, do they start to get the most out of these multicultural expeditions?
I'd say about now, so around 8 to 10. I think it's a good time. I know people who've taken younger kids, and I think they're just a little bit needing more experience to understand and appreciate what they're seeing. From a sort of altitude point of view, the theory is as long as they can verbalize how they feel, if they're not well, got a headache, whatever, then that's fine to take them to altitude. So as long as they can verbalize how they're feeling or what they want to do, then that's the right age. From a education point of view, I think they need to be a little bit older in order to appreciate and understand what they're experiencing.
Yep. And from a location, is there any particular areas or places or countries that you would suggest are worth starting off with?
Well, Nepal's great, but it is expensive and it's a long way to go. So think about parts of Europe or the Middle East. I love Jordan. I think Jordan's got a lot to offer. Morocco's another great location, which is culturally very rich and not so far away and a little bit cheaper as well. So yeah. And parts of Africa, Eastern Europe, Middle East, and then maybe
the world.
Stone will be a bit bigger and more. The beauty in Nepal is that you got the tea house setup, so you're not really gone straight into hardcore camping. You've still got tea houses with a little bit of comfort and facilities.
Well, that's exactly the experience I remember. That you were in the middle of nowhere. However, you were actually only a few hours walk from a tea hut, and you can go and buy your McVitie's chocolate biscuits.
Yeah, your Pringles.
One. I can see you smiling. But you're not completely too remote. So I think maybe for the children, that's a bit more accessible.
And as a parent, that's probably a bit more comfort to you as well.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, we'll definitely start booking up as soon as we're not going to get fined £5,000 for doing so.
Yeah, let's hope not.
Yeah, maybe next year.
Anyone else?
Hey, just a quick hi from Andy Cass.
Hiya, how you doing?
Not so bad. I missed the first half of this. I've been out on the job, funnily enough.
Really, lucky you.
I know. Yeah, it's as usual. Is this available on Zoom or anything like? Not this is Zoom.
I'm recording, so I'll put it on YouTube in a couple of days.
Oh, can you send me a link to that, mate?
I will, yeah.
You're a star. Okay, so where are you now then?
I'm in the UK at the moment.
My lord, I didn't want to let you back in.
Yeah, they won't let me out.
I'll have a word with Boris. I'm sure he'll be pleased to see the back of you.
I'd appreciate that.
Okay, well, you take it steady, mate. It's good to see you.
All the best.
Thanks. Oh, by the way, that Nairika trip was something else.
It was good, wasn't it?
Even though I didn't do the summit, like, yeah, hell, that was one hell of a trip.
And going over the Renjo, I think, is spectacular.
Yeah, that was probably one of the best moments of my life, that.
Yeah. It's special.
Yeah, cool. Okay, mate, good to see you.
And you, all the best.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
Hi, Eddie. I'm Tristan. I'm a newbie here. I'm kind of getting the gist that most people that I see on the screen are climbers or experienced climbers. I'm a novice. I'm a beginner.
No worries.
And thanks for your presentation. Really enjoyed it, Eddie.
You're all younger than us by the look of it as well.
Well, maybe not. Maybe not. I'm 51 this year.
Oh, really? Bloody hell, you've aged better than I have.
Yeah, yeah. Well, good cooking from the wife. You know what I mean? Looks after me. And I'm a beginner, and I'm going away with 360 in October.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. But I've spoke to Joe before, and then just seeing your advert on Instagram last night. Can I just check? Is anyone else here a newbie, or beginner, or a novice, or whatever? Are you all climbers? Everyone's a climber?
I'm a trekker. I'm not a climber, but I've been like say, but I have been inspired to maybe become a climber. I hate you, Aid.
But Hazel is so experienced in the Cumbers, he probably knows it better than me these days.
Oh, right, yeah. And Peter, Abigail, Megan, Andy, Sean.
I know some of the people. There's some I don't know. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, this will be my first.
We'll have a ball. Yeah.
Whereabouts are you going?
Island Peak.
Oh, fantastic! Fantastic.
Yeah.
I used to do quite a bit of climbing with my wife Suzanne, and we went to Nepal with Aid and Jeff, who's on here tonight as well. So we had done a bit of climbing. It was useful because you kind of knew where your limits were, and maybe to give you an extra bit of confidence in certain situations. But I'd say on Island Peak, well, I've no idea what the conditions post earthquake are like now, but it wasn't ever too extreme.
No.
Yeah. No, thanks. Well, I've got Suzanne underneath you. I'm figuring.
Yeah, that's my better side. Who's looking at the other. One thing I think the only aspect I'd say the climbing does bring some big advantage is you're used to handling the gear. So if you're tying knots or you're using ascenders, using axes and ascenders and things like that, you just know what you're doing. You feel a little bit more comfortable. Yeah. It's hard enough to stand up and walk and breathe, let alone try to remember what you're doing with your hands. So get used to those things first, and then you'll find the rest sort of slots together much easier.
All right, thanks. That's the sound advice. Thanks very much. Yeah. Right.
Anybody else got any more questions?
I do. So I lived in Nepal for half a year and did the Annapurna base camp trek, but I never got up actually climbing up into the actual mountains, which I'd love to do. But I was mainly wondering about how I'm training to be a medic, and I was wondering how it would be best to get into learning how to be an expedition medic. I don't know if you have any advice.
There's an organisation called International, it's HRA, Himalayan Rescue Association. They'll be worth contacting. There was IPPG, International Polar Protection Group. They had sort of clinics in Machamo and in the Annapurnas. but I'm not sure they're running their clinics anymore in Nepal. So they'd be worth having a contact with. IPPG is an organisation in the UK for looking after porters, and they used to employ doctors. What you really should look at, there's a medical diploma called mountain medicine, I think it's mountain. Yeah, it is. I'm not sure, but you can do an extra diploma as a doctor to become for high altitude. And a lot of people who are doctors who want to work on expeditions and in the mountains have that extra diploma. So that might be worth looking into. There's quite a few organisations around the place could advise you with that.
Hey, Joe has just put a message in saying World Extreme Medicine.
Oh, there you go.
Because Joe knows everything. She's great.
Yeah. So there you go. So Joe Bradshaw, she's online now. There she is. Unmute yourself, Joe.
I am. Hi, I'm here.
So maybe you can advise Abigail.
Yeah, I was just have a look into World Extreme Medicine, who are an amazing organisation. And there's so many resources around there, and so many of their medics and doctors do expedition medicine. So it's worth sort of talking to the people who already do it. And are you qualified already, or are you?
No, I'm in medical school right now.
Right, okay. Because expedition companies will take you when you're qualified. So yeah, and just having a chat with as many medics who already do expedition medicine, and also going to get experience yourself as well, because that makes you a more valuable member of the team. If you're sort of more, I missed the first bit of what you chatted about, but it makes you a more valuable member of the team. So yeah, go for it. You'll love it. I've got to go back on mute now. So
go on then.
Yeah, no, I've got to say,
several of my mates. Sorry, Aid.
No,
several mates, several of my friends in the team work with World Extreme Medicine.
Okay.
And I can only say too highly of them. They are, they work in Antarctica. They've done some film work. Yeah, get yourself involved with them. They are the boys.
There you go. There's good advice from the horse's mouth.
That's the first time you call me the horse.
All right, then. Anybody else got any other questions or just any comments?
Go on then, another quick
I'll think
one.
of something, Aidan. I'll probably think of something tomorrow or whatever, just while I'm out at work, and then if you don't mind, if it's okay, just to pop a question across.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I've been in touch with one of your colleagues, Ben.
Ben Walker.
I don't know. I forgot his surname.
I don't know. Ben. My brain's addled with too much time at altitude and beer.
Oh, okay, right, yeah. But if I do, I think.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Just a funny thought for you, Aid. I always remember the top of the Renjo La when some guy said, "What are you, Aid Summers? I follow you on Facebook."
Yes, it's one of those small world stories, isn't it? Yeah.
That's just bizarre.
You can't escape Facebook.
No, bizarre. Right, I'm going to love you and leave you, Aid.
All right. All the best. Good to see you.
Okay, buddy. Be good. Well, send me the link so I can watch the whole thing. Yeah.
No worries.
No, it was a rescue team job tonight, so hey, that's why I missed the first half. So no pay.
All the best.
Cheers, matey. Bye.
Can you suggest any sort of beginner courses to gain more experience?
The only real experience I'd say is just to go out there and do it, just get a ticket to Nepal and just start trekking. I think that's the best experience, especially if you go on your own, then you learn so much so quickly. If you're with a company, you tend to sort of be told what to do rather than actually do it yourself. And trekking around the Khumbu is very straightforward and really enjoyable. And then you can set your own agenda. You can go off and do some side trips and explore as much as you like. I think experience is much more better than qualifications at the end of the day, because you've just got those sort of knowledge and experience to draw on. Get out there and do it, yeah. Or even if it's just walking in the Welsh mountains or the Scottish mountains or whatever, just as much as you can. It just gives you that breadth and sort of a rounded experience.
I lived in the Atlas Mountains for a number of years, so I did quite a lot there, which is very different terrain to the Himalayas. But
the Atlas are pretty spectacular, different type of mountains, but still just as good. Interesting place to hang out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I could recommend if you want to go to Pakistan, I can get you a job in a school and in a clinic up in Pakistan, like tomorrow.
Wow, that'd be amazing.
They wouldn't pay you, mind, but you could work there. But yeah, no, I think the experience, you just got to go out there and do it. You know, that's the best way to learn, in my opinion.
Do they have any minor hospitals?
Where in Pakistan? In the Khumbu, there's in Namche Bazaar, there's a number of, and in the surrounding villages set up by Edmund Hillary, there's a few clinics and hospitals. Lukla's got a small hospital, but not massive by our standards, but their medical centres are probably a better description.
I'm wondering if you'd be able to do your elective there.
I don't know. I think you'd have to ask somebody. I don't know that much on that side of things, but I know IPPG used to have a clinic in Machamo, and another one in the Annapurna region, but I don't think they're run anymore with politics in the area.
Yeah, they're still closed at the minute. Was it Nick Watson did a really interesting talk the other week about it? But my other thought was, is it Community Action Nepal? They might have some information about some other clinics. They're really active in the region. I can't see you now, you've disappeared. But yeah, maybe look at Community Action Nepal. They might have someone who knows a bit more.
There's various organisations. There's HRA as well. They have a hospital, but I think they only take qualified doctors with experience. So that could be another option. They should be able to point you in the right direction anyway.
Yeah.
Well then, if there's any more questions, otherwise I'm going to have my tea.
I just have
same here.
Thanks for that, Aid. I really like seeing the Google Earth images. That was a really nice touch.
Yeah, I've just been playing around.
Cool, isn't it? Get that overview.
Google Earth is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another one called FatMap, which is even better. You can fly through your route, but I haven't worked that out yet. I had a major video disaster earlier on where all my videos just stopped working, and I'm still not sure why. But technology for you.
Good question, Aid. Thoughts between going on a big group versus just a family trip, as in joining a big trek with 8, 10, 12 other people, or just a small family by yourself? What do you reckon?
Depends where, because some places you can't really do it independently. In Nepal, then I'd say do it as a family group. And if you go to a little bit more popular area, then you'll meet people and that sort of thing. If you're trying to go a bit more remote, part of Pakistan, Afghanistan, Central Asia, then there's not the infrastructure there to do it independently easily.
So literally get into the Khumbu, head up to the Sagarmatha Natural Park or something, and then you will find a tea house, or how do you plan it?
It depends on what support you want. So you could find a local company, then they would give you a porter or a porter guide, and then you could plod in that way. If you want all the backup that a big company gives you, then obviously go with a big company, for assisting in book hotels and transport and rescue and all those extra services. Then a big company is the best way to go.
From a British point of view, is there any issues with insurance companies from your experience of not going through an organised tour operator?
Yeah, most big companies want you to be with a registered company, either a registered British company or a registered local company. because they wouldn't probably cover you if you were with, you know, the local tea house's son sort of trip.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, we're insured by BMC Mountaineering Insurance. So even going from like a proper...
The official answer would be check with BMC what their requirements are. That's my cop-out answer.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that. I just didn't know if that was a...
You would have to be with a registered company. Not necessarily a British one, but a registered company. Who's
okay, fine.
The other thing about that, and talking about insurance, is making sure that if you do go with an independent guide in Nepal, is make sure that they have insurance themselves, and so do your porters.
Thank you, Hayes.
Yeah.
So if you go with a registered company, then they will insure their porters. So if they have an accident or get sick, they got coverage for looking after them in medically.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you employ the lodge owner's son, then, you know, they haven't. And
no, of course they haven't.
Morally, you're obligated anyway, but then financially, you're obligated as well. So.
And actually, the cost of actually insuring your porter yourself, because I go on my own a lot, and I always take my own porter, and I insure him every time, and it's $120.
Yeah,
it's nothing.
So that's just part of it. It's fine.
Yeah, I just build that into my cost every time. I will never go trekking without insuring either my porter, or if I do take a guide, making sure he's got insurance as well.
Sure. No, good sound advice. Thank you very much.
No problem. Got to look after those beautiful people in Nepal.
Absolutely. Well, that's partly one of the points. You know, we want to bring tourism. We're not tourism. I'm not a fan of mass tourism, but these places only are as they are because of our money and us bringing cash to them.
Yeah.
But I don't want to spend that money on a big multinational touring company, and half the profits or 3/4 of the money goes to headquarters in New York or London. That seems crazy.
Yeah.
I need to support the Welsh and the Australians, and the locals in Nepal,
but not the French.
Not the French.
The
there are limits.
Are the most important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right then. Well, I think it's all done. Oh.
Can I just ask?
Thank you very much indeed.
Sorry, Harriet.
Sorry.
No worries.
Just a very quick question. Obviously, with the current environment at the moment, I can't really seem to get out of the country to get any practice or any, you know, my mountain fix. So just any recommendations from you in and around the UK?
Well, I've got to say Wales, of course.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Wales, the Lake District is fantastic. Yeah. If you got the time, then Scotland has got some fantastic places to go, but obviously it depends where you live. That's a little bit further away. But, you know, Wales has got fantastic hills and, you know, lots of infrastructure to look after you on the way as well. It depends where you live. It's not that far away.
Yeah, just bang in the centre. So it's all.
So then the lakes is a great option. We've got friends in the lakes. So if you want to do more technical stuff and want to hire local guides and stuff, then I know people we can put you in touch with.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Just send me a message and I'll put you in touch with local guides who can help you out both in North Wales and in the Lake District. Scotland, I don't really know many people, but those areas, there's abundance of people and they're looking for work as well because they're probably missing out on overseas work, and so they're trying to supplement that with local work.
Fab. That's great. Thank you so much.
No worries. Well then, I think I'll call it a day. I'll have my tea. Thanks for attending. Hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully see you in the hills or in the mountains or in the pub.
Oh, I'm hoping so much to be out there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys.
All the best.
Bye-bye. All the best. Keep safe.
Yeah, take care, everybody.
Bye-bye. All the best.
I really hate you. I now have a big list. I've never done notes when I've been talking to you. I've got notes and lists.
You've been up Kalapatar and Gokyo.
Yeah, of course I've been up Kalapatar. Obviously, I've been up Kalapatar, but you know, the Renjo I tried a couple of times and got ill. So I've written down must.
Must. It is.
Yeah.
There's another place I didn't put in this talk is from Gokyo. You can go to what they call the Fifth Lake.
Yes, I know.
There's a place there. Some people call it Cheats View or Scoundrels View.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
it.
stunning. It's just stunning.
Yeah.
That's well worth. If you didn't go,
I was so happy that you did Goka, because you did the picture of Goka, because I'm like, yeah, been there, done that.
But a lot of people, that's, you know, like if you're on a too tight a program, you just don't get those options. You know? And that is
the Goka Valley, going up the Tame Valley. So worth it, isn't it?
Well, for you, you'd be hanging around there. They must have a school up there. You have to go and see.
Funnily enough, that was the conversation that me and John Gupta were having today. Like,
all right.
Surely, Hazel, you can come out here because of work.
Exactly. When's he going out, or is he on his way out?
He might be already there.
Yeah. Don't say anything. Because he did a great podcast with Kenton. Did you hear that?
I haven't heard all of it. I haven't heard.
Yeah. And I think they're, you know, it's work, so you're allowed to go.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm going to send you the link to a podcast that I was on.
Oh, really? What was that?
It was just one of my friends who does it. Yeah. So he interviewed me. I'll send you the link.
Yeah, do. I'll be interested.
It was cool.
Well, then,
I love you, darling, and thank you so much.
Pleasure. See you later.
Have my June, you know.
See you in Sam's,
darling. Love you.
Inshallah. Bye.